Welcome to another episode of Maya Eileen Talks. Today we will talk about the movie Spencer from Netflix in 2021. But first, a note of the host of this podcast. I would appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and family. Spencer is a 2021 historical psychological drama film directed by Pablo Larraín from a screenplay by Stephen Knight. The film is about Princess Diana's existential crisis during the Christmas of 1991. As she considers divorcing Prince Charles and leaving the British royal family. On Christmas Eve 1991, the British royal family prepares to spend the Christmas holidays at the Queen's Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Among the attendees is Diana, Princess of Wales, whose marriage to Prince Charles has become strained due to his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. The staff of Sandringham prepare for the royal arrival, and Diana drives around the Norfolk countryside. On the verge of a breakdown, she avoids heading to Sandringham until running into Royal Head Chief Darren McGrady. She notes that the long-abandoned neighboring estate Park House was her childhood home. Then she noticed a scarecrow in the distance and eagerly runs towards it with a nostalgic expression. Diana takes off its jacket, which once belonged to her father John Spencer, 8th Earl Spencer, and goes back to her car. When Diana arrives at Sandringham, her sons William and Harry are excited to see her, but she does not attempt to socialize with the rest of the royal family, who mostly ignore her. Diana's only friend at Sandringham is royal dresser Maggie, who encouraged her to both combat the royal family and fulfill the obligations expected of her. Diana finds a book on Anne Boleyn in her bedroom. She begins to have dreams about Boleyn, including a hallucination of her at a Christmas Eve dinner where she imagined herself destroying a pearl necklace given to her by Charles and eating the pearls in her soup, eventually coming to believe that Boleyn's ghost is haunting her in her capacity as a fellow abandoned royal wife. Diana tries to visit her childhood home, but she is stopped by royal guards who initially mistake her for an intruder. On Christmas Day, Diana attended to the service at St. Mary Magdalene Church, Sandringham, where she noticed Camilla among the gathered crowd and is photographed by numerous intrusive journalists. She holds a difficult conversation with Charles, who rebuffs her concern over William and Harry's participation in a pheasant shoot the next day, and advises her to develop a stronger sense of separation between her public and private lives. Charles privately arranged for Maggie to be sent to London and spread rumors that she had planted the Boleyn book in Diana's room and made critical comments about her mental health. McGrady denies that she had done so when Diana questions him. Major Gregory attempts to encourage Diana to conform to the pressures of royal life by reminding her that the soldiers of the British armies die attempting to protect the interests of the crown and by extension her interests. Diana responds by stating that she never asked anyone to die for her and accuses him of planting the Boleyn book in her room as a warning, which he denies. After imagining wounding herself with a pair of wire cutters given to her by McGrady, Diana avoids the formal Christmas Day dinner, instead running to her childhood home and gaining access to it with the wire cutters. Memories of her happier girlhood overtake her, and she dances from room to room while imagining her younger self. She considers committing suicide by throwing herself down a flight of stairs, but the hallucination of Boleyn stops her. Instead, she rips apart her pearl necklace. On Boxing Day, Diana wakes up in her room to find that Maggie had been called back from London. The two travel to a nearby beach where Diana talks about her mental and marital problems. Maggie responds by confessing that she is in love with Diana. After bidding Maggie farewell, Diana goes to the pheasant shoot, walks out in front of the crowd of hunters, and announces that she is taking William and Harry to London, to which Charles reluctantly agrees. Diana bids farewell to Macready, and Major Gregory returns to the Boleyn book to the library. As they drive away, Diana and her children sings along to the song All I Need Is a Miracle by Mike and the Mechanics. Passing the Scarecrow gang, now dressed in one of Diana's outfits, they drive to London, where they order KFC and eat by the River Thames. Diana looks across the river, uncertain of her future, but no longer feeling burdened by the royal responsibility. Alright guys, this movie, I kind of like it, but we see that the struggles that Princess Diana had, and I can totally imagine that. But let me say this first. We common people often just place the royal family, of members of the royal family, on a high standard because they are rich, famous, and whatever else more. But bear in mind, they are also human. They're not superhuman. They have to go to the loo each morning. They have to eat, they have to drink, they have bad habits like drinking or smoking. And although I know we often see only the things that they bring out, like a good marriage or the riches or what to be is like a prince or a princess. Well, let me tell you my perspective view about that. I said I would never want to change life with them, because I must tell you, I think the royal family, and especially the kids, are very lonely. And they often speak about a golden cage. Well, I do think it is like a golden cage, because, and also like those very old traditions that they have to participate in and know, and etc. etc. And it's a bit of, although of course I do like the royal family, also the royal family in the Netherlands. So I know what it is. It's not uncommon for me. So, but let me tell you one thing other. And I see a lot of YouTube videos about that. And that is that tourists are being disrespectful to the king's guard, or the guard of the palace. That is something that is a no deal to me, because I also know what it is to have lived under a monarch, etc. Although the monarch doesn't rule in that way as much, because it is always the government. And that is one thing I hope that especially the Dutch royals never ever give the power of ruling completely to the government. That they are just like a representing figure of the Netherlands. I would hate that, because that isn't what we are. And I do think that the king and queen still have some ruling over the country or whatever. Of course, you have good kings and bad kings, but I do think in general, and there were people said that it is not for this modern times. I do think it is from the modern times, because this is only the thing that a country will keep together. And if everything is, and that's what I love about, I thought it was Queen Juliana of the Netherlands that start doing that. They have those days when on her birthday that the common people can come by, of course from a distance. Now we have celebrating, like you will probably know it as Queen's Day or King's Day. The whole Netherlands will turn orange and have games, and there is a celebration to the whole country. Since Willem Alexander is king, he also initiate the games for kids, and especially the sports for kids that aren't fortunate that their parents can get them into a sports. So that is a good initiative. And of course we have Queen Maxima, who is this multi-genius in with money. So she is anticipated with how kids have to learn how they spend money, etc. So I do think they have they can do well, but I do also think for themselves, it in one way they of course they grow up with it, but on one hand, I think that must be very, very. I couldn't breathe at that. Really, it does. And so coming back to this movie, I can really imagine how Diana had must be feeling, because it is not easy to have to inquire in, like, it's has so many rules, and even in like what they think it is funny, it's for a lot of people not funny. It's you can do better with their time and how they live and etc. And although they are a public figure, I do think they and that's why I totally understand from a lot of royal families if they also have this private piece of their life, and the companies don't have to know that, because you won't go to a commoner house and film their life and say, okay, this is just for fun on the telly. So I can really imagine the struggle Diana has, and in one way I must confess, when this all played in 1997 when she passed away, I also have been Team Diana. But then I also saw the different sides of Prince Charles. And with everything what is playing around, I can imagine that it must be difficult for both of them. And I also have seen that Diana is not the, well, maybe the Princess of Heart that we know her and see her, but not as the woman she really is. And, in part of that is, of course, the royal family's fault, because Diana was super young when she married Prince Charles, or King Charles now, and she was just like a trophy wife. And I think that, I think that is very difficult for to stand out by the royal family. And yeah, it's just like I said, it's just, I think it's very difficult. I also can imagine that when you have a spouse that still has a relationship with his mistress, I can imagine that it is very hard for someone to be in someone's presence. And what we see, of course, we see all the servants that she has, etc., etc., etc. But bear in mind, they are in order of the queen or the king and the current king and queen. And although it's very insisting in, or what we common people think of royal life, I think, like I said, I think it's still very distinguished, as in you never know what's truly happened behind doors. And for example, also, what question get into mind now is, how the hell are you getting employed at the Royal Palace? And I do think it is lovely to see how once again William and Harry love their mother and vice versa. But I totally understand how it must been for Diana. So there is a moment in the movie that Diana finds a book of Anne Boleyn and has hallucinations and dreams about her. And it is a bit of a fascinating that why Anne Boleyn has played a strong character for Diana. And I think that is one of a moment that Diana was had decided that she's going to live her own life. Of course, Charles said, well, I have done my job for the crown. I have 2 sons and heirs, and now I'm going to spend a life with my mistress, Camilla Parker Bowles. And in one way, I hated Camilla Parker Bowles for a long time. And in one way, I don't want to say I have a grudge against her. It is because of the whole monarch and traditions and God ever else know what princes and princesses has to follow having a lifetime partner, and because of course Camilla was already divorced, Charles couldn't marry her. I do am pleased that at the end they got married and that they now can be the power couple that they always have been, although maybe in the wrong way of Charles, etc. And because I do think Diana didn't deserve this, as in how the royal family have treated her and not being supportive in ways that they could have. And I don't know how this is with her servants, because I would say, okay, if you are a servant, you also have some kind of loyalty against towards Diana. And I'm surprised that she never had close friends in the palace. And I think because of Charles is just staying his involvement with Camilla Parker Bowles, I think that is that was just the red lane in the whole marriage, because the marriage would never be good if he's still pursuing Camilla. And in that way I had a lot of pity with Diana. When the movie we also see how she struggles with daily life, daily routine, etc., etc. of the palace. And, you know, in one way she go through as a lady here in England, but she is also that bit of a country girl, if I can say that. She loved peace in a way, but she's also this city girl. She loved parties, she loved doing things. I always admire her for this, that she did those things with William and Harry, just because she thought they needed a normal education as well. So going to McDonald's to have a McDonald's meal, or and I remember it was one of the documentaries that I saw, and the chef of I thought it was Buckingham Palace, he found a little note in Harry's handwriting, but Harry wrote it as that Diana would write it, and he said something in the line of, "Oh, please give the boys hamburgers, they still need to grow," instead of the healthier food of what they prescribed by the Queen. And he said so kind of things that those are always make him laugh. And I think because Diana let the boys also be boys, I think she did a good job with it to show them the common world and not the perspective only from a royal perspective. And I think it's very nice in this movie that you see that they are like this, and that, like I said too, I can imagine how Diana must be feeling with all of this. I can imagine that she got crazy and that she wants to get out and wants the official announcement of them getting divorced, I I was cheering because I always believe that if you are in a marriage that is toxic, why would you stay together? Only for children? Or only because you happen being a princess and a prince? Um, I do think, and I would have expected, and this is just because from a common people who, yeah, question themselves about it. If the royal family is so rich and they have every source of getting help and be coping up with the royal life, why don't they have help? Because I do think if Diana had the help she could have and really a support system, then I think that would be a lot better. Then she would be a lot better in life. Bear in mind, there are also a lot of factors that is making her life difficult. And then I talk about journalists and paparazzi and etc. I do say I love journalism, but I am not someone who would be that cruel and rude to somebody else. And I know a lot of people in my surroundings are always saying, why? You have a mouth, you can be straight to the point like Dutch people can. And then my answer is, sometimes you have to be harsh, sometimes you have to be direct. But there's also time of listening. And a lot of people in this society will open their mouth, but don't listen. They don't have the empathy or sympathy for someone else's life. They don't want to take a step in their shoes because they don't like it or have prejudice or whatever. And you know, Diana was I think an example what is also playing in society as well. But there are a lot of government rules that making seeking help very difficult. And I know that for a fact because also I have struggled in my life with getting the help I need or getting the people around me that I need. And the government is making it just difficult, etc., etc. So I can imagine that although she lived as a princess in this beautiful castle and has this obligations and good life, it still can be very, very but as always, the story has two stories. And of course that's the story of Diana and that's the story of Prince Charles, of King Charles. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that. And like I said, it is not being easy being a royal. And I think a lot of people forgetting that. And also, yeah, like I said, they have to wake up, they have to go to the loo, they have to should they have to go, they fuck, etc., etc. Excuse my language, but okay, I have a thing for the point. And in one way, we common people are forgetting that sometimes. I remember this thing. I thought it was some kind of a reopening of the churches in. Is that a church? Yeah, it was a church, but it is used for other things now. In my birth town, Arnhem. They reopened it because there was a glass lift in it, so you can see Arnhem in 360. And Queen Beatrix at the time, now Princess Beatrix, opened the new elevator. And afterwards, she was standing outside, smoking with some of the bin men and some of the policemen. And I remember as a young child, I was very shocked about that because I didn't know that she was smoking. And second of all, the Queen, why would the Queen be smoking? Etc., etc. So I was shocked about that. And I thought there was a gentleman near me and he saw my reaction. And he said, yeah, the Queen is also just a person. And she does normal things. She has good habits and bad habits. And that is how I start thinking, yeah, it is true. And although people are, and especially foreigners who don't know what it is to have a monarch or have a royal family, it's really, there is a pride in having a royal family. There is a pride in how they treat us, but how we treat them as well. So, for you foreigners, please be a bit more respectful to the King's Guard and to the kings and queens, princes and princesses. Because there was this Karen who, I don't want to say bullied one of the guards. She was swinging around with a gun and she got the gun of this royal guard in her face. And how some people are acting and reacting to those guards. I can imagine how they are like that. Because it is ridiculous rude how some of you are. And I can't imagine that. Why would you do that? Why would you do that in fuck's sake's name, that you react like that? It's just ridiculous. And you guys will all want to be on a picture with this person or King's Guard or whatever, but have some respect. Life is so difficult enough. With that said, I'm going to go into the rating of IMDb. And the rating is a 6.6 for this movie. I do recommend to watch it, because it is a nice and good movie. I would give it personally a 7.5. because it is good, but it also gives you a little bit of an insight of what happened and what Diana had to go through, etc., as well as the kids. Yeah, like I said, just give it a chance. It is, I think you might like it, so why not? And yeah, take a thought on the things I have said in this episode. And if you want to have a discussion on the Facebook or the YouTube channel, you can do that in the comment sections, of course. But yeah, these are some thoughts that I had in my mind of being a commoner with a monarch as head of state. So thank you for listening, and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode of Maya Eileen Talks. The next episode is about Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. You can find the Maya Eileen Talks podcast on Spotify, Anchors, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, on the YouTube channel, or join the Facebook group. I also have 2 other podcasts called the Dutch Ready Room Podcast and Girls Talking Track. The Dutch Ready Room Podcast is a podcast for all the Dutch Trekkies to talk about everything Star Trek. Of course, this will be spoken in my native language, Dutch, and is a video podcast. You can find the Dutch Ready Room podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Girls Talking Track is a track podcast that I used to do with my good friend Amanda, but since her passing, I'm doing the podcast alone. So I'm still looking for another track friend who will and have the time to recap with me every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek. At the moment, I am recapping season 3 of Star Trek The Next Generations.